Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles True Crime Podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants everyone to know that Johnny Depp is the only person who could have used an Amber Alert. It's Dale.
Ain't that right?
You dang right,
He said, well, shit.
Why didn't my phone go off for this?
It should have been blowing up and in flames.
You got that right. Man.
What's going on, man?
Not a lot. What's going on with you?
Oh, same old, same old. Had a good little holiday weekend last week.
Yeah, we hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend holiday.
Yeah, it was nice. We dropped a little early for you in case you could work around that.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I got it done a little early and took some relaxation time in.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You work real hard on this stuff.
Well, I try.
You do.
We try to give a good product out for our listeners and our fans. And
I'm over here to lift you up, buddy.
well, I appreciate you, bud. I appreciate everything you do for me.
All right, then.
I do. You got any good shout-outs? Anybody you want to talk about?
Well, how about we got a couple. We'll mix it up a little bit today. We got a pretty good, I guess it was an email on YouTube. Is that what it was? Email?
It was a comment on YouTube.
A comment on YouTube from M, that is letter M, Yak, Y-A-K. And I'm going to say she because the picture was a she, but if it was a thee or a who or whatever, I don't want to diss anyone. Like
who the person is.
Like we did Mike in Canada. Anyway, they love the channel and how we kind of talk about the case like we're having coffee or / beer together or just hanging out, and kind of thinks it's funny how Dale would be, me, is throwing some low-key shade.
Low-key shade.
Well, you know, I don't want nobody to get sunburnt. You know?
No.
I'm trying to help out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we got a Facebook comment from Melissa Cowan, and we appreciate that. Thanks so much for your comment. It was on our Candace Hiltz episode, and which is 112. If you want to go back and check that out in our archives, and we'll definitely check that out. And finally, we want to give big thanks and shout out to Karen Collins Hilton. I guess that's Hilton, Hylton, for Facebook recommendations. She's really in love with Dale Donnie, telling good stories, true passion. Yeah, I just blew through that because I didn't want to. Tells good stories with true passion and detail, and she recommends us to everyone who is looking for a true crime show.
Man, they just make us sound good.
I'm telling you, I'm loving that.
If they only knew. If they only knew.
Oh, we appreciate every one of you guys. Thanks so much.
We do appreciate it, guys. And want to remind everybody to go to Apple Podcasts. If you're an Apple Podcast listener, click on that 5-star and write something in the box.
Yeah, man.
We challenge everybody to do that, this Apple listener.
We are getting no Apple love.
Yeah, there haven't been much coming in the last couple of days. I know it's probably been a holiday and everybody's been out of town and stuff. That's cool.
That's a pain in the butt to do it. You have to go mash a button or something.
Yeah, write something in the box. But if you do it, you get a shout out.
Well, yeah, you do. Heck yeah. Mm-hmm. And we are working tremendously and tirelessly and putting so much effort into getting on this Samsung free gimmick, so you can be able to get the podcast there. So we have done everything we can do, or excuse me, Donnie has done everything he can do on our end. We're just waiting for them to put it up. So we'll be there soon. Yep,
our podcast host says that everything is good on our end. I don't know why it's not going to Samsung Podcast, but maybe it's just in the fold and I don't know, going through their system.
But if you're listening to this, you pretty much know you can find it in a whole lot of places, but we're trying to get at least one more on the list.
Yep, we're just about on every podcast platform that you can imagine out there.
And then some.
Yeah, oh yeah. Some will show up and say, I have never heard of this podcast platform.
Yeah.
But we appreciate everybody that listens.
Like our buddy Andy.
Yep. And if anybody wants to go to the website and drop some change in the jar for some gas money, we appreciate that too.
Yeah, because it's going up.
Yep.
Every single day.
Yep. Keep the car running, keep the lights on.
We sure appreciate you.
We really do, guys. All right, Dale, we are going to get into our case this week, dude.
Let's roll, brother.
Yep. And we've got another one's going to piss some people off.
Yeah. Can we start with me?
Yep. Me and Dale was researching this case. That this is just another one that pisses me off.
Yep.
Why do you keep bringing me these cases? They just piss me off.
I think you like that, don't you?
Nah, well, yeah, I like to see you get pissed off. But no, I mean, it's just the system, man. It's just the way things are run. And
totally, man, because you just tell me a little bit of this. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. And then next thing you know, okay, we got a kid. I'm like, Donnie, why do you keep bringing me this kid stuff? Well, you know, it's a good story. So, all right, cool. As long as it's a good story. And then as we get into it more and research more, like, you know, if the system would have done its job, these 3 people would still be here.
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty astounding, actually.
We have a serial killer this week. We hadn't done a serial killer in a while, but
it's been at least, what, a week and a half?
Yeah. Now, it's been a while since we've done a serial killer, but this is a lesser-known serial killer.
Right.
And his name is Brian Dugan.
Brian Dugan.
Yep, and he's a bad dude.
He kind of favors Richard, what was the name?
Richard Allen Chase.
Yeah, Richard Chase, the Sacramento vampire.
Yeah, kind of some of his younger pictures, they sort of resemble a little bit.
Yeah, but I think that he's not quite, well, totally two different stories. They just kind of favor each other in the photo.
They kind of resemble.
I should have looked up that episode number so I could plug it right quick, but oh well. It's on there, find it.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
But now, Brian James Dugan, he was born on September the 23rd, 1956 in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And he was the second child of James and Jeanine Dugan. Well, his mom's name was Genevieve, but she went by Jenny.
Right.
And he has one sister and 3 brothers. And according to all of his siblings, both the parents, James and Jenny, were alcoholics. Yeah. So him and his coming into this world, Dale, he just wasn't too good for him.
Right. I was kind of surprised that he had actually siblings after his birth, after this mess.
Yeah. But talking about his birth a little bit, I mean, him just coming into the world, it was pretty traumatic. Because his mom was in the hospital about to give birth to him.
Was she in the hospital? Or were they just somewhere?
Everything I read is she was somewhere because there was
waiting on a doctor, so I'm assuming they were just maybe doing it in the house or something.
There was a nurse and an intern there. So,
oh, well, okay.
So some kind of facility.
Okay.
Yeah. Birthing facility or some kind of something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but anyway.
Baby plant.
Yeah. But his mom was there about to give birth, but the doctor was running late.
Right.
And she was there in labor, about to have Brian. And the nurse was freaking out and didn't know what to do. The intern was freaking out and didn't know what to do. And all this is according to Brian's siblings, that the nurse pushed Brian's head back inside of his mother.
Yeah. And strapped her legs together to keep him from coming out.
Pushed him back up into the birth canal.
Like, man, toilet plunger and a ratchet strap.
Yeah. And you know, like you said, strapped her legs together till the doctor got there.
That can't be good.
No. And some of the...
especially with soft spots and stuff.
Yeah.
Think about it. Go ahead.
But some of the relatives would later question some of this, that it may have caused Brian to have some brain damage.
Well, yeah, it's very possible, I guess. And I guess a couple of things said they really didn't have the money to do a whole bunch of tests and see what was going on. But, they said that he would start just smashing his head into the railings on his crib because he had severe headaches, trying to get it to stop, and then would do it till he vomited. Yeah,
I mean, it was so severe.
I mean, that's gracious.
And he was taking medication for this until his teen years.
Right. So, I know bad headaches can make you vomit, but smashing your head into the crib rails is not very good.
No, it's not. And Brian was also, as he was becoming older, he became a chronic bedwetter. And his mom would make him lay in the wet sheets.
Yeah.
To try to
punish him for it.
Yeah. Which is, it's just wrong, man.
Yeah, it ain't like he's doing it on purpose.
No. And he also became fascinated with fire. Yeah. About around the age of 8, him and his brother, they were out in the garage playing with some matches. And they burned the garage down.
Now, before this, he was playing with fire, and his mama, using her punishment wisdom, would make him light a match and then hold it till it burned all the way down to his fingers.
And burn his fingers.
Yeah, and try to break him from playing with matches, but you see how much that did.
Yeah, he ended up burning the garage down.
Right.
Man.
Still playing. So her slightly fuzzy look on life here is not working too good.
Yeah, and that was about when he was the age of 8. So when Brian was around the age of 11, they moved from New Hampshire to the village of Lisle, Illinois. This is in DuPage County, Illinois. And during this time, Brian was getting into all kinds of trouble, Dale. By the age of 15, he was arrested for burglary and put under court supervision.
Now, wasn't the reason they moved was to try to make things better for him?
Yeah.
Like try to get him into baseball and normal stuff instead of burning down houses?
Yeah, just get a different atmosphere and different location, just to give him a normal childhood.
Right.
But yeah, it wasn't working.
No doubt.
Now, by the time Brian was 13, he had poured gasoline on the family cat.
Yeah.
And lit it on fire.
Yeah, that's...
His brother Stephen said that he just laughed about it.
I'm saying this is stuff that pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, he was showing psychopathy at an early age, man.
Yeah, and this is what, two of the three sides of the triangle you're always talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald triad, yeah. He's showing these symptoms of a serial killer, no doubt.
It's crazy.
Yep. And by the time he was 15, he was arrested for burglary and put under court supervision. So he's just all out of control at this time.
Right.
Later in 1972, Brian's mom had sent him to the store to get some hot dog buns.
Right.
And on his way to the store, he'd got to the store and he was approached by a man in a car.
Mm-hmm.
And the man in the car asked him if he wanted to make some money.
Right, yeah, it's like a dark blue car or something.
Mm-hmm.
Pulled over and yelled at, "Hey, buddy, make
yeah.
a couple dollars."
But Brian got in the man's car and he took him to a secluded area.
Mm-hmm.
And there, he forced Brian to put on some bikini brief underwear. Strip naked and put on some bikini brief underwear and perform oral sex on him.
And they said that the fella just kind of watched him for a little bit, and so Brian didn't freak out or nothing. So he just took him back to the store and gave him $20 for his time.
Yeah.
I wonder if he got to keep the drawers.
No, I don't know. But he went in and got the hot dog buns and went home.
Right.
And later, it was claimed that, Brian Dugan claimed that after seeing this man later on TV in a 1978 arrest, he claimed that it was John Wayne Gacy.
Right.
And he realized that Gacy was the man from the grocery store.
Yeah, and some people say it's probably not true. Some people say it is, but it says basically, it's kind of fits his profile, but I don't know. It's kind of weird if it is. It's his story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of this we don't really know, but that was a pretty neat little tidbit.
But yeah, because Brian didn't show any emotion from being assaulted like that. He just didn't.
He's probably thinking about burning down the school.
Yeah. And in 1972, the family moved to Batavia. This is a Chicago suburb on the border of DuPage and Kane counties. So they moved again. There in Batavia, he enrolled at high school. During this time, there was a complaint against him for trespassing, and he was also suspected of a home burglary in Kane County. And the court there sent him to Kane County Youth Home in Batavia. So he's out of control, and they know it, but it's not lasting too long for him. According to Brian's younger brother, Stephen, when Brian got out of the youth home, this was in 1972, he claimed that Brian tried to molest him.
Yeah, I think they were both in the bathroom, and then he kind of like sexually assaulted him, but he had kind of stopped before it got too far. Yeah. And he's like, kind of said something to the effect, well, if you were in jail, I couldn't do nothing to help you, and you'd have to either submit to it or die or something like that, some kind of. So it was kind of like thinking, well, somewhere down the road here, he's been molested.
Well, he told his brother, said, if you were in prison, you'd just be a piece of meat.
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah.
So basically, I guess he was kind of telling him secretly where he had been.
Yeah.
Without telling him where he'd been.
Yeah, and that's when his younger brother, Stephen, pretty much knew that he had been sexually assaulted while he was in that youth home.
Correct.
Yeah. That's not good at all.
No. Well, he's crazy.
And when he was released from the youth home, it was 3 days after getting out of the youth home, him and a friend, they robbed a Kentucky Fried Chicken of over $4,000.
That's a pretty good payday from a chicken place.
Yeah, and the two of them went to Iowa and committed burglaries in Dubuque County. And the police, they arrested Brian and his friends, and they both confessed. This was in December 28th of 1972.
Yeah, he was 16 by this time.
Yeah. And just the next year in February the 19th, there was a break-in at the K.D. Waldo Middle School, and Brian confessed to burglary there. And it was just a couple months later, in April of 73, Brian quit high school at the age of 16. So he's just racking all these things up and not trying to get an education or anything, dude.
And so far, nothing's happened to him except for went to the youth home.
This that anything productive happened to him, but I don't think anything productive happened there.
Well, there's probably some not so productive stuff happened to him there, but
yeah. And it was in 1974. Brian Dugan, he attempted to abduct a 10-year-old girl from a train station in Lisle, Illinois.
mm-hmm.
And charges were brought against him, but later dropped. And in 1975, he had threatened his older sister Hillary, and he threatened to chop her up, and he vandalized her car. He kicked out her headlights.
You don't chop up her son.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going, well, okay, good to know you're just going to hurt the car a little bit, but you want to chop up the son.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, he's crazy.
He had also committed some other crimes. He committed a break-in at a place called the Twirly Top. I don't know what that is. It just had it on his record, but he had also attacked a young girl in Lisle, Illinois,
Right.
in 1974 when he was 16. And by the age of 17, he was arrested for sniffing paint and resisted arrest by kicking officers.
Yeah, and he got arrested for 2 times in Aurora for stealing gas and burglary at a store, and then but the gasoline theft complaint was dropped due to the fact the witness was a no-show. He got probation on the home burglary, but so there's another one where he's just getting by. And we see this many times in these cases.
Mm-hmm. This is when he fled to California before doing time for the previous charges. And there, Brian and his friends served 30 days in jail for petty theft, possession of fireworks, and narcotic paraphernalia.
Yep, and possession of cannabis.
Cannabis.
It's a weed.
Yep.
So they fled to California to not do time, to go do time in California.
Yeah.
He ain't real smart.
No. And after they were released, Brian and his friends were arrested again for possession of Valium and marijuana, as well as for disorderly conduct. But it claims in his record that they were not charged. Well, Brian was not charged because he used a fake name.
Right.
And this was in 74.
So, a lot of stuff was like that back then.
Yeah. So now, when he was 18 in early 1975, he returned to Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And this when he was living back at home, and he attacked his sister and spent a few days in jail.
What the hell's up with him and his sister, dude?
I don't know, dude. And he was also, at the age of 18, he was arrested for bringing a hunting knife into a hospital.
Well, you never know when you need a knife.
Yeah. I mean, they have knives in the operating room, but I think that's sort of a different kind of knife.
Yeah, I don't think you need a Rambo knife swinging on your side walking through the ER.
Yeah, but he did that after I'm into the hospital. Now, and also in 75, he moved in with his sister Hillary in DuPage County.
So this is a different one that she keeps...
This is the same sister.
What?
Yeah, he only had one sister.
Okay.
So in early 1975, he moved in with his sister Hillary in DuPage County, town of Villa Park. And also he set fire to the elementary school.
Good God.
So, yeah, he's racking up some stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you.
Now, by the time he was 21, this is January the 30th of 1977, Brian broke into 2 churches in Aurora, and he pleaded guilty to the 2 church burglaries and did 6 months in jail when the actual sentence was 2 to 6 years.
Well, see, and that's crazy because just, right before that, when he was arrested for that elementary school arson, he pleaded guilty to that too. And a couple of other charges, the burglary and whatever, battery, assault, and criminal damage.
Mm-hmm.
But some of that was dropped, and he received a sentence of 1 to 3 years, but served less than 7 months on that.
Yeah.
And then this one, it's just right after. It's not. It's less than a year later. He's in trouble again. Give him all his time, and he does just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And then right after that, he gets paroled.
Yeah, like you said earlier, if something would have been done to him and him done some time, all this stuff wouldn't have happened.
Right. Yeah, because he ain't going to slow down.
Oh, it's going to get worse. It's ramping up.
Yeah.
And in September the 30th of 1978, this is when he was 22, he broke into the same high school he broke into in 1975. And the case was a year long. And in April of 1979, when he was 22, while the breaking entering case was still happening, Brian was charged with having a 14-year-old girl who was a runaway living in his house, and also charged with another Aurora burglary.
He served 3 years on that.
Yes.
And then at 26, he's paroled again.
Yeah.
and that's in July of '82.
Mm-hmm. So
what the hell? A 14-year-old girl living with him. He's 22.
Yep. So in 1982, at the age of 26, he was released from the Menard Correctional Center, and later broke parole and went to the Joliet Center.
So they're trying to do a little bit here with him.
Mm-hmm. And still in...
Is he learning anything?
No, he ain't. He's not learning anything, because later in 1982, he attacked a woman in Aurora, and the woman got away.
Right.
Charges were dropped when his brother Stephen gave him an alibi.
Yep. Gave him a fake alibi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to molest you, but I'm going to give you an alibi.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on February the 25th, 1983, 10-year-old Jeanine Nicarico, she was born on July 7th, 1972. She was abducted in broad daylight from her home in Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah, I think this time Brian was driving around by now, and he was looking for places to rob so he could go buy his drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened around this house. It was kind of out, and he looked like nobody was home, so he walked up to peep in the window, and he said that's when he seen Jeanine sitting on the couch by herself.
Eating some ice cream.
Yeah. So, yeah, she was home with the flu, like you said, or did you say?
Yeah, she was home from the flu.
And so he kind of freaked him out, and he didn't really want to go back to jail, and he didn't want to get caught. So then he started to walk off, and then that's when he says that he felt this feeling come over that this was the time to ratchet it up even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Dale said, Jeanine was at home with the flu, and both of her parents worked. And her mom she didn't work far away. I think she worked at a school, like a secretary or something at a school. I think that's what she did.
Okay.
And her mom actually came home at lunchtime and made her some lunch and went back to work. Yeah, so that's got to be tough.
Right.
So anyway, Brian, he sees her in the house, like you said, and that feeling came over him.
Yeah, and he ended up kicking the door in.
Yeah, and she freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he grabbed her up and wrapped her up in a sheet.
Yep. And drug her out of the house.
Yep. And she managed to get her arm out of the sheet, and
she was fighting, trying to grab anything she could.
Yeah.
Ended up leaving fingernail marks down the wall.
God, dog, can you imagine?
I cannot.
Mm-mm. But he ended up taking Jeanine to the Illinois Prairie Path. This is near Eola Road. They're just right outside of Chicago, Illinois. And there she was raped and sodomized before he killed her. And he just left her, covered her with some branches.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Mm-hmm. Now, in Jeanine's murder, Brian was not initially a suspect. The DuPage County authorities, they charged 3 men from Aurora. Their names were Rolando Cruz, Alejandro Hernandez, and Stephen Buckley with the crime. But Buckley's trial ended in a hung jury, but Cruz and Hernandez were sentenced to death in 1985.
Yeah, there was a $10,000 reward being offered, by the police, and these guys, they figured they might could get up in there and give them a little information and try to get the reward.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's what happens when you go up in there giving them false information. Turn around and think you're the one who did it, and that's why they got arrested. Yeah,
they were arrested and convicted to death.
Yeah.
And Brian Dugan was still out there committing crimes.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, put these guys in prison. It was like a really speedy trial and everything. I guess they're just trying to close down a case, And so there's another misstep by the authority.
Yeah. But the jury was deadlocked, like we said, on Buckley, and he was not retried.
Right.
Yeah. All right, now we're just going to skip a little bit ahead to July 15th, 1984. This is when Brian Dugan, he notices a woman driving at night. Her name was Donna Schnorr. She was a 27-year-old nurse from Geneva, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
She was in her car at a stoplight, and she was, like I said, she was coming home from a party, but there was a guy that was following her.
Yeah, to make sure she got home okay.
Yeah, he was just a friend.
Yeah.
And when she got close to her apartment, he turned and went, I guess, to go home or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was the last intersection that turned to go to his house, so he figured she was fairly close, so he turned and go home.
Yep. But then Brian got behind her.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran her off the road with his car.
Yeah, he pulled up beside her. He kind of sideswiped her and ran her off the road.
Yeah, this was a pretty desolate area. I've seen pictures of this area. It's pretty desolate.
Yeah, a couple mile stretch there.
Mm-hmm. And she, I guess, in a position there in her car, she was trying to get out because he had his car up against the driver's door, and she was trying to get out of the passenger door.
I think after he sideswiped her car and run her off in the ditch, then he pulled up in behind her car and put the front end, the rear end of her car. So when she tried to back up out from where she was, she couldn't. She was trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was trying to escape by get out the passenger side, but she couldn't get out, and he went around and grabbed her and put her in his car.
Yeah, that's when he tied her up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went back to her car and wiped down all of his fingerprints and stuff.
Right.
So nothing would be, no trace of him there. And that's when he walked her down into the woods to a quarry. It's like a fishing hole quarry.
Yeah, it was an old flooded quarry.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to take her to Wisconsin, but by the time, he just didn't have time to go where he wanted because the sun was coming up soon. So he knew this. He went to this flooded quarry.
Mm-hmm.
Took her down there.
Yeah, he took her down there and raped her and then killed her.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Drowned her.
Yep. And then he just, after he got done what he had to do, he just sat there.
He pulled her back out of the water and sat there with her for about 20 minutes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, freaky people.
It's like, I've heard it. It's like coming off a high.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he just got in his car and started leaving. But as he was leaving, there was a car coming in with a couple young guys that were going fishing. So he said that he just turned on his bright lights to blind them and just kept driving. And
So they couldn't recognize him, I guess.
Yeah, and then he went and ditched his car, and then later called it in stolen. So he got rid of that car.
That was an Impala, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this was on a early Sunday morning, and she was supposed to have went to church that morning, and her parents were at church, and they noticed that she didn't come into church.
Right.
And when they got home, the police were there waiting on them.
Yeah.
And said her body had been found there at that quarry.
Yep, them kids found it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty quick police work to figure out where her parents live and who she is, and especially if she didn't have any ID on her, unless they found her car pretty quick after he left it in the ditch.
Yeah. All right, now after Brian had killed Donna Schnorr, this was the nurse that he ran off the road, he abducts and rapes a 21-year-old female.
Right, now this is May of the next year.
Yeah, but he ends up letting her go.
Yeah, I guess, after he did what he did and she didn't kind of freak out, I guess, and stuff, I wonder if he did kind of like a flashback of when he was supposedly with Gacy, and
yeah, could have been.
When, he's like, well, he just let her go.
Yeah, she didn't show any emotion or anything.
Right, like she wasn't flipping out, but I think she got his tag number, but he didn't know it.
Yeah.
At this time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the police didn't check on it or anything until later.
No, way later.
Yep. And just a day later, on May the 29th, Brian kidnaps and rapes a 16-year-old girl, and he gives her his name, and the girl is too frightened to report the incident until some time has passed by. And then she can only remember his first name and his last initial.
I'm sure she was traumatized. She's not trying to remember a whole lot of nothing. But, yeah.
No. Now we're going to move to June the 2nd of 1985. This is when two little girls were riding their bicycles. Their names were Melissa Ackerman. She was 8 years old, and her friend Opal. And they were in Somonauk, Illinois, when they were confronted by Brian Dugan. He just happened to be going down the road and saw them riding their bikes.
He was doing his a little burglary tour. Damn, I'll get that soon. And he just happened to come up on them, like you said, and then I think he drove by them, and then I think he started thinking. So he reached over in in the old cars how they had the pull-up locks. He took the knobs off of all the locks.
Okay.
All right. So then he turned around and went back and pulled over. And the two girls had stopped riding when the car come. They'd pull over to the ditch. You know how you do, let the car go by. But he stopped, and then he got out and was going to ask them some directions.
Yeah.
And the girl started talking to him, and then he acted like he couldn't really hear them that well. So he would come a little closer, and then finally he just reached out and grabbed a hold of Opal.
Yeah, and put her in the back of his gremlin.
His gremlin.
Yeah, he had a gremlin. But he put Opal in the gremlin.
Right.
And then he went back to get Melissa. And this is when Melissa was screaming and hollering at Opal to get out, get out.
And she tried the doors, but no, the locks were locked, and she couldn't pull the locks up because the knobs are gone. So Melissa goes, no, go through the window, because the window would have been left down.
Mm-hmm.
So she dove out the window.
And run across the field and hid in a tractor tire.
Right. Meanwhile, while she was diving out the window, he was grabbing Melissa and dragging her back by the ankle to the car and threw her in the car.
Yep. And he drove off.
So you think about it, she kind of gave herself up to save her friend.
Yeah,
And,
pretty much.
he didn't want to go after her again because he knew he had to get out of there, running out of time with people coming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she said he just jumped in the car, and then they started driving off, and then Opal kind of peeped up over the tire, and all you could see was Melissa looking back at him from the back window.
Yeah, that's crazy. Can you imagine?
No.
Mm-mm.
I'm sure it bothers her to this day.
But Opal did manage to escape, but Dugan overpowered Melissa. And he raped and killed Melissa Ackerman.
Yep.
And he drowned her in a creek. It was
Yep.
about 15 miles away.
Yep.
But her body wasn't found for several weeks.
Yeah, it took a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had drowned her and left her in the creek and then stacked rocks on top of her.
Mm-hmm. That's probably what took a while.
Yeah, because the place where the body was found was searched 2 or 3 times before, but they just never found him.
Mm-hmm. Now, he'd left the scene and he was headed back.
Mm-hmm.
And he noticed a corrections officer or some kind of police officer behind him.
Yeah, it was a county police officer from whatever county it was in, yeah.
It was following him. And he just pulled into a service station, Handy Mart type store, and went in the store, but the cop pulled in too. And he went in the store just messing around a little bit. I guess he kept looking out, see if the cop was still there. And he bought a drink and I guess some snacks and stuff and went back out. And
he was still there.
Yeah, the cop was still there and noticed that his license plate was out.
Yeah, he was kind of coming out. You know how he's all freaking out, going, oh, God, I got it. He goes, well, is anything, what's wrong, officer? And he goes, your tag's dead here, buddy.
And he's like, shoo. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, this being in the 80s, he asked for his license, and then he's about to flip out because his license was not valid. So he ended up handing him his fishing license, and somehow or another getting by with that. Because while he was looking at the license, it came over the radio that they were looking for this girl who had been abducted in a small blue car.
The girl that he just abducted.
Yeah. So he said the officer looked into his car, didn't see anything, and then wrote his name down, and then took off to go help him search, not realizing he just let the killer go. He had him right there.
Yeah, the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But he went home and got cleaned up.
Yeah, he went home because it was a pretty messy murder.
Yeah.
With the mud and all over from where he had been at the creek.
Mm-hmm. The day following Melissa Ackerman's murder, Brian Dugan was arrested at his job.
Yep.
He came to the attention of a police officer from the store. And the police officer from the neighboring town of Samak reported encountering Brian about the out-of-date license plate on his car.
Yeah, Opal Horton had been able to give them a full description of Dugan's vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were talking about it, he realized the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. And Brian Dugan was charged with her murder when police were able to link him to the crime through physical evidence found on Brian Dugan's belongings, because they ended up matching the mud or dirt from the crime scene to what was in his.
Yeah, they've matched the dirt from the creek to dirt that was found in his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure some in the car, too, because, he's covered in it when you seen him at the store.
Yeah, but they had him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They had him twice, really.
Yeah, had him several times. But like we said, Brian Dugan was not initially a suspect in Jeanine Nicarico's murder.
Mm-mm.
The very first one.
Right. The one those 2 fellas were arrested or put on death row for.
Mm-hmm. But in 1985, he gave an unofficial confession to the crime, but wanted to avoid the death penalty in that case. And prosecutors rejected his demand, so Dugan refused to make an official confession. But he would later claim that he made his confession in order to take responsibility for the crime, clear Rolando Cruz and Alejandro Hernandez.
Yeah.
Although Cruz had stated that he believes that Dugan's motives were self-serving and that he had nothing to do with the truth.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
How they just trying to cover their ass now.
Yeah. Both Cruz and Hernandez were eventually exonerated of the crime after much of the evidence and testimony against them was discredited. Now get this, in 1999, 7 DuPage County law enforcement officials were tried but acquitted of conspiring to frame Rolando Cruz, and eventually prosecutors were able to link Dugan to Nicarico's murder through DNA testing.
Well, that's what they get.
Yeah. But
these kids, they spent 12 years in prison?
Yeah.
On death row?
For a crime they didn't even do.
Yeah, just because they was trying to get some quick money.
But Brian Dugan was put on the death penalty. He was given the death penalty for this.
Right, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, when he admitted to doing it, And they come in there to saying, he had did it. They'd been in there for 2 years then, and then they's like, nah, and they still stayed for 12 more years before it ever got overturned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 10 more years. It's making it 12 total, I think.
Yeah.
So that's just shitty.
Mm-hmm.
Hope they got some money out of that. Well, at least they should give them however much the reward was.
You'd think, yeah. But this caused the Illinois state governor to do some work on the capital punishment.
Yeah, definitely.
Because of this conviction and this wrongful conviction of Rolando Cruz, the death penalty was abolished in Illinois.
Yep.
Because of this. Because them boys could have been put to death.
Right.
For a crime they didn't commit.
And then they did get some money. Cruz, Hernandez, and Buckley reached a $3.5 million civil settlement with DuPage County for their wrongful prosecution in 2000.
Yeah.
And then in 2002, Governor George Ryan granted Cruz a pardon. And then on 2005, Dugan was indicted for Nicarico's murder. So it took that long for them to go ahead and go, okay, well, he probably did it. So on July 22nd, 2009, Dugan pled guilty to the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Jeanine. And then on November 11th, 2009, Dugan was sentenced to death.
Yeah.
But then, I guess it
was overturned.
They changed it, I guess, because they switched it over. But, usually I'm pretty, if everything's cut and dried, I'm pretty for the death penalty if need be. But I can definitely see here why they would want to abolish it here.
Yep.
Just because those two kids almost got...
well, they rushed their trial.
Yeah, they sped it through, trying to cover their own ass.
Yeah. But Brian Dugan, he began serving his life sentence in the Pontiac Correctional Facility on November the 25th of 1985. And during his incarceration, he was stabbed 30 times while there. So he's been in some fights and all kinds of things going on.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, really does. But that's where he's at today.
They probably should do that to him every day.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude's a kid killer. Sorry. I mean, they're all bad, but damn, these kid killers, man. And he had tried to kidnap and rape and do so much stuff before any of this, before he got to murder, and it just pisses me off that he just kept getting off with slap on the hand, slap on the hand, slap on the hand. And I know we talked about it earlier, why do we think it was like that? But that's before I realized that they had moved around so much. So maybe a lot of that didn't get stacked on, it was just more of a, he did this and okay, we'll let him go. Probably didn't have very good records back then. It went from county to county or state to state.
Yeah. But just a little bit of more background on Brian. His mama once said, she told FBI agents that she didn't think her son was capable of anything beyond thievery, but his brothers and sisters suggested otherwise. In their interviews, his sister Hillary and his brother Stephen, they were the closest to Brian's age, both said they thought he could have killed Melissa Ackerman. And if he did, his sister said he should get the death penalty.
Yeah. Well, he got 2 life sentences plus 215 years, so I don't think he's going to do much more.
And his siblings said there was no lost love between them, especially after Brian Dugan in 1975 busted the headlights for a car and threatened to kill and chop up her son.
Chop up her son.
Yeah, so
and I'm sure then she was like, yeah, whatever. And then later on she was like, holy shit, that could have really happened. At any time. Yeah. He is that crazy.
But they cut him off. And it was many times that Brian's mom would bail him out, and there was no much of a thank you or anything for any of that. He just got out and went on committing crimes and doing what he wanted to do.
Well, didn't he say she bailed him out so many times they just banned her from bailing him out or something?
Yeah.
So she tried. Mama tried.
Yeah, that's right. Brian is still incarcerated, and he will never get out.
That's a good thing.
And his brother, Stephen, that was closest in age to him, the one he tried to molest when they were kids, he sort of separated himself from Brian. He went on, joined the military, got married, and had a family. So he took the right path.
Right. You think he's really going to molest him here? He's just showing him kind of what's like, how you got to take care of yourself.
I don't know. I think something went off in his head and he was going to molest him. Then something went off again and said maybe he shouldn't do that.
Right.
I believe he would have. I believe he would have done it.
He may have. He self said he was like a Jekyll and Hyde. Stuff happens, and he just triggers it.
Something triggers, and he just wants to do bad things.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is the case of Brian Dugan, serial killer from Illinois.
Brian James Dugan.
Yep. But yeah, like you said earlier,
POS.
if he would have been locked up for some of these earlier crimes, none of these later crimes would happen.
Yeah, he had plenty of time stacked up there. If you go back and look at that list.
Some of them girls would, well, probably them 3 girls would still be alive today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I know this first victim, Jeanine Nicarico, her family, every year they hold a 5K race there in their hometown. And they have thousands of people show up to participate, and all the money goes to Jeanine Nicarico Scholarship Foundation.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty cool deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But they're all out there and, keeping her memory alive and something for her.
Yeah, that's definitely good because, everybody talks about the killer and sometimes the victims
they do get left behind.
pushed to the side, and that's not fair.
Yeah, people get fascinated with the killers, and the victims need to be remembered.
They're the real story, truthfully.
They really are. But anyway, that is the case of Brian James Dugan. All right, Dale, we are going to get out of here.
All righty then.
We want everyone to be safe, be careful, and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is the Crack House Chronicles.